Welcome to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you are ready to find your inner magic, develop great habits, and a rock steady mindset to feel confident, comfortable, and fit in your body, you are in the right place. I am Kim Barnes Jefferson, and I'll be giving you weekly doses of health, fitness, and life tips sprinkled with humor and real talk. If you're ready to be consistent without the stress of perfection, magic makers, it's time to slip into your favorite pair of PJs, grab some coffee, kick back, and listen to today's show. This week's iTunes review is brought to you by Jackie O Jazz Hands. She writes a great, funny podcast about real topics we all struggle with. Kim gives great advice and support to people to live their best life. That just fills my heart. Thank you so much for taking the time to write me that 5-star review. And for those of you who have yet to leave that 5-star review, all you have to do is go on to iTunes or wherever you listen to this podcast and do the same thing, and I will read it on the air. So thank you so much, Jackie O Jazz Hands. It fills me up when I read those reviews from the heart. Enjoy the podcast. All right, Magic Makers, welcome back. And today this is an episode that's been sitting on my heart for a really long time. And if I think back, like I've been sitting on these thoughts for a long time, and finally, probably in the last year, I feel like it's time to speak them out loud. And I'm also just getting the feeling that a lot of you guys might be in the same boat. A lot of you guys might have starting to have these same thoughts and feelings. So let me just stop all the rambling, Kim, and just get to the freaking point. So for me, for a long time, busy meant I was successful, right? I was successful. I was winning. And busy felt like the adult version of getting a Birkin bag, right? For those of you guys who aren't familiar with a Birkin bag, it is this handbag that you have to get on this ridiculously long wait list. And then even then, I'm told that they might even look at your name on the list and be like, are you worthy of getting this bag? And so back, when I had my corporate job, I used to sneak out in the middle of the day to get my eyebrows done. And I thought that was this is what women of leisure do. They get their eyebrows waxed on a random Tuesday at 2:00 in the afternoon. Because back then it was all about proving, I had to work twice as hard as everyone to be taken seriously. I had to be the first in, last out. And if my Fitbit or my Oura ring wasn't giving me 1,000 steps by sunrise, was I even on my way to being successful? And I wore busy like a badge, and I really sucked as a Girl Scout, and story for another day. But it was proof. Being busy for me was proof that I mattered, proof I was ambitious, proof that I was doing life right, proof that I was on my way to God knows where I was trying to get on my way to. And meanwhile, I'd see these women who truly on a random Tuesday were just living their lives, meeting friends for lunch, sitting outside, reading a book. I used to work at an office building in Cambridge, and there was this green patch in between the big buildings. And this woman, every day at lunchtime, she would pull out her lawn chair, literally lawn chair in the middle of this is in Kendall Square. In the middle of Kendall Square, she would pull out her lawn chair and lay there in the middle of the day. And I was like, girl, here I am, giving myself 15 minutes to run down, get a sandwich, and run back to my office. And you're tanning yourself, girl. And so my first thought was must be nice in the most snarkiest tone. And that kind of life belonged to other people, right? Not hardworking people, not responsible people, not women who had goals. And, call me Judgy McJudgy, but I was a Judgy McJudgy. And so for those of you who are newer here, I recently moved to Boston I don't live in Boston anymore. Ah, I recently left Boston and I moved to Jupiter, Florida. Let me ask you a question. At what point did our lives become this giant game of productivity Jenga? Somewhere between driving your family here, there, and everywhere, the endless piles of laundry, remembering everything for everybody, and literally being there for everybody. A lot of us Gen X ladies, we got really good at managing our lives, but we forgot to participate. And it didn't happen in this big, dramatic, table flipping, Real Housewives moment. It was a little bit quieter. We thought connection meant I liked your Facebook posts, and fun, well, that's something on my someday list. And then that someday list kept getting longer and longer and longer. So I created a short quiz. What part of your life have you been blowing off? And it's to really help you understand where in your life we need to take a little bit more rest. Where do we actually need true connection? Where do we need to have a little bit more fun? And maybe just feel like you again. So head up into the show notes and click the link for this free quiz. And then do me a favor. Tell me what showed up for you. Now, I want to be clear. I loved living in Boston, like truly. Like I remember going there in high school and being on the Red Line, going over the Longfellow Bridge and just being like, yes, this is like where I want to live. Like, it had nothing to do with like the winning sports team. It was just like the city had a vibe and I just wanted to grab it with both hands. But the Boston winters have become like the Arctic Circle for me. And this year I felt myself like really becoming a hermit, and I would like not like on purpose. And I remember years ago, my mother-in-law would talk about how if a snowstorm was coming, she's like, "All right, I got to get all the things done before the snowstorm because I might not be leaving my house for a few days." And I was like, you know what? That's not how I want to live my life. I don't want to live my life that I can't leave my house because it's cold out. I can't leave my house because it's icy out and I might fall. And, last October, I started my 15 minutes walking thing every single day. And this was it felt amazing. And I really got used to that. And then this year I stopped doing it because we had to start 2 back-to-back, like 30 inches of snow. And like people didn't do a good job shoveling. And so like I was like a freaking billy goat walking outside. And I just was like, you know what? This is not how I want to live my life, right? I don't want to be out there in the dark and freezing and leaving my house voluntarily, like hard pass. So I found myself like just leaving my house to teach a class, to run errands, and immediately I was running back inside my house. And then like one day, like I caught myself and I was like, is this how I really want to live my life? And my life had become just productive, right? Very scheduled, very efficient, very routine. But was I enjoying it? Or was it just more about checking the boxes? And it's funny how I've worked from home for years. For the last, 15 years, I've worked from home. I have not had a traditional corporate job, but I still treated it like I had a corporate job. I guess I was the boss and my boss was a biatch, right? I had lunch at my desk. I was inhaling food between calls. Like everything was rushed. Like everything was still very scheduled, just like I was in corporate. And then during COVID, Philip started to work from home and he got weirdly committed to us sitting down and having lunch at the kitchen table every single day. And like every morning he would be like, what time for lunch? And like, this was like a real lunch, like plates, like a whole conversation. And I remember probably like a few months in, I remember overhearing him on the phone. And he said, one of the best parts of my day is when I get to sit down and have lunch with Kim. And I was like, really? And I was like, for so long, it was like uncomfortable. Like I was just like, shoulders up to my ears, like uncomfortable, like sitting there and having lunch and kind of like looking at the clock, like how quickly can we get this done? And I just was like pausing, but like, why was like sitting down for like 30 minutes in the middle of the day that I controlled my time? Why did it feel like something was wrong? Right. And then it clicked. Like the problem wasn't my schedule. It was my conditioning. Right. For like the past 10 years, I've been talking to you guys about the flip-flop life. Talk to anyone who would hear me about the flip-flop life. And I really thought it meant like a location, like, wearing flip flops in January versus like wearing snow boots. But the longer I've been sitting with it and like, what does it truly mean? It means more than I realized. It means permission, right? Permission to live differently, permission to stop being the doer, permission to decide that the whole point of being healthy isn't to micromanage every little bite and to suck the fun out of your social life, to suck the fun out of life, to like really have your world revolve around your health and fitness. It's about how do you build a life that you actually enjoy? And, for years, and maybe you feel this way too, I have been the handyman of my life, just fixing things like I'm freaking Maytag, trying to maintain things, manage things. Like I'm the super, like, this will date me, but there was a TV show, and it got a reboot on Netflix, I believe, called One Day at a Time, right? That's how we first met Valerie Bertinelli. And if you haven't seen her on the Drew Barrymore show, I have fallen back in love with her. Anywho, I digress. So I became the Schneider of my life, right? I was acting like the handyman. I was just fixing things. I was maintaining things. I was managing things, always on call for whatever fire was coming on in my life or someone else's life that you came to me to help you fix. And so I know I had this original, invisible, that's the word I was looking for. I had this invisible rule book that I was following, and it came from decades, right? Decades of conditioning. And us Gen X ladies, we were taught that worth was output, right? Because it's like we grew up that we took care of things in our house. I grew up with a single mom. And so like came home from school and I had a list of things I had to do, to get dinner ready, before she came home. I had to do laundry. Like, so we like didn't come home from school like kids do today and kind of hang out. We had a list that we had to do. And, we were conditioned that rest was lazy, that enjoyment was something you did. Like, here are the things that you have to do before I could sit down and watch TV. And if I think about it, like, I don't think I ever saw my grandmother sit down until I was like 30. And so it's taken me a long time. And maybe you listening are like, oh, I got to think on that too, to realize that like everything was never done, right? There will always be something on your list. I remember people at work would come to me and they'd be like, I'm so bored. I've done everything I'm supposed to do. And I was like, I have never been in any job I've ever had. I've never been bored because I've always saw something else that I could do, saw something that like, oh, okay, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. But I can't ever say I've ever been like bored. I was like, I want to be bored at work. But I feel like I've always had that kind of job that people have always just like thrown more shit on my plate, probably than should have been on my plate. But, that's a story for another day. And so as I've been thinking lately, just kind of expanding like, okay, this whole move has just brought up all the feelings. But I've been thinking about, I've been working in the fitness space for almost 20 years. And I remember this one client, she came to me to lose weight. Like most of women come to me to lose weight. And in about 3 months, she said something of working together. She said something to me that I've never forgotten. And she said, I don't think I ever actually believed I was allowed to feel good. Not thin, not a size, just good. And then it hit me because most of the transformations that my clients have had over the years, yeah, sure. Absolutely. I've helped them lose weight. Sure. I've absolutely helped them win national titles and pro cards. Absolutely. I've done that. But the thing that I think is my greatest superpower, the greatest thing that like I like want to be known for is that I really help women to stop blowing themselves off and realize there's always one small step, right? Because again, conditioning, not you, just how the diet industry raised us, how our parents raised us, was that there was always like something, I had to check all the boxes on my list. And if I didn't check all the boxes on my list, was I worthy enough to sit down? Was I worthy enough to like read a chapter in a book? And not be for like self-help or growth or whatever, just to be like, hey, have you read the latest Emily Henry book? Right? That wasn't a possibility until I had all the things done on my list. And so the women that work with me, right, start to finally realize that I can rest and I know I'm working on this without this guilt spiral, without this like one more thing and I'll sit down, one more thing and I'll do that, right? So the women who stop abandoning themselves on the hard weeks, going from 0 to like 100 every single Monday. And I wasn't just teaching them how to lose weight. I was teaching them how to stop blowing themselves off. I was teaching them how to stop disappearing on themselves. And again, I'm working on this as well. But every single woman that I'm about to introduce you to, every single woman that I've worked with kind of fall into these 4 buckets. And I want you to kind of listen through to all 4 of these. And I will say, I have been all 4 of these women. Sometimes I'm for all 4 of these women at the same time. But maybe one of these kind of is like, ooh, yeah, that's me. That's me for sure. So first person, you're exhausted chronically. You get 7 hours of sleep, but somehow you're like, I need another nap. And, you somehow say to yourself, your whole life is like productivity Jenga. One wrong move and like everything's going to collapse. You keep saying once things calm down and, we all know, when does that actually ever happen? You treat rest like it's something that you earn. You turn a day off into a giant to-do list, from sun up to sundown. You haven't taken a deep breath since Christina Yang was on Grey's Anatomy. And if that is you, you are a Brenda. And I'm going to give you a challenge. Your challenge, set a timer for 10 minutes and sit down. No agenda, no phone, just no list, just sit. And I'll give you a bone. You can go for a walk, but no devices. No devices. Just go for a walk. And if that sounds ridiculously simple or holy shit, I can't, do it anyways and report back to me. Now, maybe you are this person. Fun? What the hell is that? Everything has to be practical, efficient, useful. Somewhere along the line, you stopped asking yourself, would this make me happy? Would this bring me joy? Or you keep asking, is this productive? Is this something else I can check off on my to-do list? You tell yourself, pickleball, someday. Someone talks about a dance class, someday. A girls trip, someday. And your someday list is starting to look like your kid's Christmas letter. And life is going on while you're color coding your calendar, waiting for things to slow down so you can finally schedule in some fun. If that sounds like you are a Tammy. And your challenge, I want you to pick one thing on your someday list, one thing that actually sounds fun, and follow through on it. And now I'm not saying like if your someday list is you want to like go, hike the Andy Inca Trail. I think that's what it's called, the Inca Trail. How about you say, okay, how long? You Google how long is the Inca Trail, and you go to the gym and you walk for 10 minutes on the treadmill. Or if you said you wanted to ever learn how to play pickleball, you Google pickleball courts in your area, right? Just look one small step towards whatever it is that's on your someday list. Now, the third personality here, this one feels a little personal because for 6 years, I had weekly Zillow listings emailed to me. Full disclosure, Philip and I literally started talking about moving to Florida, during our COVID walks. But, it was someday. I had 6 years of research and spreadsheets and neighborhoods and school districts for kids I don't even have. And, I had 47 tabs open, and, maybe you're the person who has all the paint colors and all the paint chips from Benjamin Moore, the Pinterest capsule wardrobe that you're going to build someday, that dream trip to Italy, and a hobby that you're definitely going to start next month. maybe you've researched your future life, but you haven't actually figured out how you're going to live it. And, you just keep thinking to yourself, when I have more time, when things slow down. If that's you, you are an Iris. So, girlfriend, let's stop researching. Let's make the reservation. Let's book the trip. Whatever the thing is that you've been planning for 6 months or 6 years, take one real step towards it today. And then our last one, I call her Faye. Faye thinks staying connected means liking someone's Instagram post. You find out about a friend's promotion because you saw it on LinkedIn. She keeps telling herself, oh, we should get together sometime. And then you never, ever pick a date. And then you can go like 3 years without noticing that, like, hey, we actually haven't ever got together. Everything becomes about obligations and logistics. And somewhere along the line, we just stopped connecting with friends. Like everything became a opportunity for something else. And if that's you, you're Faye. So what I want you to do is I want you to think of the first person that you thought of that like you haven't seen in a really long time, and shoot them a text, like a true text, and ask them to coffee. Ask for like a quick video chat, and not someday, like literally be like, and it's funny because I'm new to Florida, and this woman that I went to college with, and she was we were in college, like we were really good friends, and she found out I was moving to Florida, and she literally texted me this morning, and she said, "Hey Kim, I hope you're settled. How about Friday or Tuesday for coffee?" Like literally, like Friday or Tuesday, not like, "Hey, when you're settled, give me a holla." Like literally, it was like this time or this time. And then I was like, okay, I'm not going to be a Faye and like look at the text and forget to text her back because guilty. I was like, hey, I'm out for the next 2 weeks, but what do you got in June? Right. So that way, like it moved the conversation forward. So I want us to start being like that in our personal life. I know in my business life, when I'm with a client, I'm like, okay, girl, when's our next training session? Let's get it in the books. Like before they even put down the last dumbbell of the last set, when's our next meeting? Can we set this up for the next 4 Tuesdays, right? So I want us to get into that habit if you feel like you're a Faye, because I'm straddling the Faye Iris line, especially when I was moving, right? So I just kind of was like in my own bubble of just trying to get my shit together. And my friends gave me the space, right? They're like, Kim will call us when she's ready, right? And I want you all to feel that. Like, sure, your friend will always call you when they're ready, but what if you were that friend, right? And I want to say that I was guilty that like I was so heads down of like hitting my date to get my shit out of my house that I should have been a little bit more, built in a little bit more fun in that time. So how did this all land for you, right? Because when I think about this flip-flop era that I'm entering, right? It's not about earning, it's not about earning my rights. It's not about earning to feel good, earning my workout, burning off food. It's my life, right? And I want to talk more about that. I want to talk more about like how does life flow now and start living it, right? Because I think it's in a sad way. And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but this is kind of like lots of things have kind of pointed me in the direction like we have to change. Not in a dramatic way, not in a like go dye your hair pink kind of way, but sadly, so my mother's neighbor and they were one of the first people they met when they moved to Florida over 20 years ago. And his wife had a long battle with cancer and she died. Just found a new love, right? And moved in together, doing all the things. And then he got sick. And I don't want to look back and, say, I waited I waited. I want you to not have to wait for this like big life change, right? For there to be this diagnosis or friend's diagnosis or retirement. I want you to be like, what can I do? Like, and it doesn't have to be cataclysmic. Like, what can I do to make me feel good? Right? For me, feeling good is like, I know I always need to live near water. I don't need to live on it because I am not about to be clinging on to my chandelier when a hurricane comes. But I know that when I walk by water, I see water, I am a very different person. And so like, what's that for you? Like some people are like, oh, like I'm all about like being in the city and I just feel the heartbeat and all of that. Some people it's being with animals. Some people it's just being out in nature. Decide like what it is that brings you joy and give yourself permission to have that joy and to not like miss your life, not have like something cataclysmic happen for you to say, I need to start enjoying my life, right? So we're not waiting for everything to be perfect. We're not waiting for everything to be handled. We're not waiting for everything to be done on my to-do list because girlfriend, you will miss your whole damn life. So even if you have to rewind, what kind of woman are you, right? Are you the Brenda? Are you the Tammy? Are you an Iris? Are you a Faye? And if you're like, I still don't know, or I could be all of the above, because I know I've been all of the above, sometimes all at the same time. I've written a quiz and it's called What Part of Your Life Are You Blowing Off? And it's going to tell you exactly what area do you need to focus your attention on first. The link is in the show notes, but if you're not a DM or if you're not a link in the show notes, you could do me a favor and you can DM me on Instagram or Facebook and send me the words flip-flop and I will send the quiz straight to you. Because maybe this chapter isn't about becoming somebody new, but maybe finally coming back to yourself. Like kind of being like, you know what? I've been feeling like something is off. And now being able to say, this is what it was. This is what made me off. All right, Magic Makers, I will talk to you next week. Until then, enjoy your life.
Thank you for listening to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you've made it this far, yay. I'm thinking you enjoyed the show. Let's continue the conversation on Instagram. You can find me at Kim Jefferson Coach. In order for me to keep sharing this message, do me a favor and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe so that you won't miss an episode. New episodes are available every Wednesday. The Fit Girl Magic podcast is intended to provide you with tips, tools, and strategies that will help you make better decisions about your health. I really appreciate your feedback and your support. Thank you so much.